What is up, guys? This is Nate with Mud Digger Off-Road. Today I'm going to be bringing to you a quick how-to install on the SuperATV Heavy Duty Chromoly tie rod kit for the 2016 to 2024 or current Yamaha YXZ1000. That's going to fit all of the R or the 3-pedal models, all of your SS's and SEs, your XTRs, and the current 2024 6-speed. As long as you've got the factory rack and pinion, this will be a direct and very worthwhile bolt-on. So working through a quick unboxing here, we've got the turnbuckles there on the bottom, all of the hardware kit, and the inner and outer rod ends. It does come with new boots, new zip ties, cotter pins, nuts, every single thing you need to do this install. You will not be reusing any of the factory components. So starting off here, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and get your machine jacked up. As long as the front tires are off the ground, that is really all that's required. This can be done wheels on the ground in a trail fix scenario, but if you've got a shop or a garage where you can do it, it's going to make it a whole lot easier to get that thing up in the air and get it at a comfortable working height for you. So obviously go ahead and start taking one of the wheels off. This is just going to be a how-to on one side. Obviously it is 100% symmetrical from the driver to the passenger side, so just repeat and follow the same process for the other side as well. And once you got that tire off, you're going to want to go ahead and pull out the cotter pin on the outer tie rod, just so we can go and get that nut off. I don't know why I was having issues here with the camera reacting to the LED light I had on my head. So I do apologize for the bright flashing lights there. Once you get that cotter pin out, go ahead and take that outer tie rod nut off. And since we're not going to be reusing these tie rods, you typically want to just strike on the side of the knuckle, but if you do end up having to hit the threads or accidentally hit the threads in this tie rod, it is not a huge deal since none of these parts are going to be reused. And right here, go ahead and just check. I already knew that these tie rods were bad, but I'm just going to go ahead and check for play. So typically what you're looking for is any up and down or in and out movement between that ball and socket. It's always better to go ahead and get these replaced or upgraded before they completely fail, because once they start to have wear, they'll start wearing or grinding down the inside of that ball and socket, and it takes a lot less to cause a tie rod failure. If you hit a bump, a tree stump or anything like that where it kind of pulls your wheel in one way or another, you can start to run the risk of weakened tie rods, and that's never fun when you go from using 2 wheels to turn to 1 and then the other one just kind of does what it wants. The inner tie rod boots might be stuck on there a little bit. Once again, it does come with new boots, so if you do have to cut these or essentially use any means necessary to get them removed, feel free to. Sometimes it helps to use a flathead on that backside to kind of pry up off of that steering rack to kind of break the seal there. And then once that guy's off, same thing on the smaller part of the boot there. Sometimes you can get it off, or you should be able to get it off with a flathead. This one, I didn't really want to waste a whole lot of time, so I ended up just cutting it to free that thing up there so I could get that boot off to get access to the inner tie rod. Once you've got that boot slid down, you'll be able to see and get access to the inner tie rod where we've got to loosen that up off of the steering rack. I ended up not having the right size wrench for this, so I ended up just using an adjustable wrench. Works just fine. They're not typically super crazy tight, but just kind of be mindful of where your knuckles are if you want to keep them attached to your hand. Now once you get that broke loose, you can just go ahead and start unthreading the tire assembly. Nice thing is when you use these SuperATV tie rods is it does replace the inners, outers, boots, everything, so you don't have to worry about separating a seized inner and outer. And the new chromoly rod ends are a whole lot easier to adjust and make fine-tune adjustments for your alignment. So on the inner tie rod here, always want to make sure that we're using some red Loctite, and I still don't have the correct size wrench, so back to the adjustable. Throw some red Loctite on there, and you want to finger thread that into the steering rack as far as you can. And then go ahead and tighten that up with the adjustable once that is in there all the way. Once again, just get that real nice and snug with the adjustable there. You definitely don't want to leave this one loose. Once you've got that guy tightened up, then we're gonna go ahead and slide the inner tie rod boot on over that rod end. Just be real careful. Obviously, you don't want to do any rips or tears on this boot there, but you want to get it slid all the way up. And then once it comes to tightening down the big end on the steering rack, that's where it can be kind of patience testing, because it is a tight fit. It does fit, I promise you. It just takes a little bit of effort, some stretching it out, and then it does come with some cable ties to get that tightened down on the steering rack. Once you get that boot on, go ahead and thread that jam nut back on there, and then we're gonna go ahead and install our turnbuckle. So if you pay attention, the knurled end of the turnbuckle goes toward the outboard side. So one side of this turnbuckle is right hand thread, the other side is left hand thread. So obviously just make sure you're threading it on the correct way. It will only go on one way. And the outer tie rod is a left hand thread. So put the jam nut on that one and get that guy threaded in. One thing to keep in mind, and a common mistake we see, is you want to, when you're doing the initial install, you want to have about or exactly as close as you can the same amount of threads on the inner and outer tie rod showing. That's going to make for a nice smooth adjustment when you go to adjust your toe later on. And then go install the knuckle rod end into the outer tie rod. go ahead, you've got a washer and a nut for the top and the bottom. You can go ahead and throw the washer and nut on the top side, tighten that guy down, and start, just kind of keep in mind you're going to be lining up the castle nut with the holes in that outer tie rod so you can install your cotter pin later on. Same thing on the bottom side, go ahead and install that into the steering knuckle. Once you've got that slid in there, washer and castle nut on the bottom side as well. And then tighten those down, lining the hole up with the castle nut for the cotter pin there as well. And once you've got those holes lined up, go ahead and throw those cotter pins in there. Ended up needing just a little bit more adjustment right there, just a little bit more turn. I swear everybody has their own cotter pin style. To be honest, I don't really think it matters which way you bend the tails on the cotter pin. But obviously just make sure you bend one leg or both legs completely around at least a 90-degree angle to keep it from coming back out. Same thing on the top side, go ahead and throw that cotter pin in there. And that's just about it, guys. So go ahead and repeat the same procedure on the opposite side. I've got a link for how to do the toe alignment and toe setting in the description below, as well as the alignment plates that we use to dial everything in. So thanks for watching, and go ahead and like and subscribe. We always appreciate it. Thank you.